The Great Gatsby is considered to be one of the greatest works of art ever created in American literature. The Great Gatsby follows a cast of characters living on Long Island, in the town of West Egg in the summer of 1922. The story mainly focuses on the young and mysterious millionaire, Jay Gatsby, and his passions for Daisy Buchanan. Throughout the book, themes of idealism, symbolism, resistance to change social upheaval, and the portrayal of the jazz age and roaring 20s has been shown in order to describe their American dream. One of the most key components of The Great Gatsby is its use of symbolism. Even in today's world, literature experts are still baffled on the symbolism that Great Gatsby shows. The most famous and unforgettable symbolism involves the eyes. T.J. Eckerbert's billboard is one of the two notable eyes in The Great Gatsby, owl eyes being the first. The eyes of T.J. Eckert is described as blue and gigantic. The retinas are 1 yard high. They look out of no face, but instead from a pair of enormous yellow spectacles which pass over his non-existing nose. Don't worry though, they're not actually giant disembodied eyes. They're actually on a billboard, an ad for an eye doctor. Nick Carey goes on for 3 sentences about these weird, disembodied eyes before actually explaining that they're on a billboard. One could say that he gives you enough time to picture these images and wonder what's going on, even to form other conclusions of what the eyes could be. But clearly, to us, the readers, the eyes are more than just a billboard. One can say it's more than meets the eyes. Before the time vs. Gatsby showdown occurs, Nick notes that the eyes are always keeping a watchful vigil. There are also scenes in the book where eyes are referred to as the eyes of God, a scene where George takes Marlo to the window from which we know the billboard is visible and tells her she can't fool God. Wilson makes the same connection, stating the eyes of T.J. Eckert are always watching, and so are the eyes of God. Many experts have argued on what these eyes may represent, but in my personal opinion, and from the evidence I have found throughout the book, I believe the eyes represents the eyes of God. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckert symbolizes a mysterious sense of spirituality, conscience, and morality. In the novel, the society is obsessed with money and status, and the billboard of Eckert's eyes look over the cities with a sense of judgment like the eyes of God. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckert stare down on the main characters as they pass underneath the billboard on their way into New York City, where Tom carries on his affairs, where Gatsby drives Nick to meet Wolfsheim, the man who fixed the World Series, and where Daisy rushes off to find and be with Gatsby. The eye seems to look down upon these characters. Wilson compares T.J. eyes to the eyes of God. When discovered about Marty's affairs, he states,
"You might fool me, but you don't fool God! God sees everything!" Ah! Motto!
Here, he is referring to the eyes of T.J. Eckert as the eyes of God that can't be fooled by anyone. Another important symbol that helps justifies the meaning of T.J. Eckert's eyes is the Valley of Ashes. The Valley of Ashes is described as a fantastic farm where ashes grow like wheat into ridges and hills and grotesque gardens, where ashes take forms of houses and chimneys and rising smokes, and finally with the transcendent effort of men who move dimly and already comely through the powdery air. The Valley of Ashes represents something dark and lifeless, and its fire ashes represents destruction and death. The death of Marta Wilson in the Valley of Ashes stands for the pain associated with this valley. Also, the fact that the Wilson lives in the valley shows that they are not of such high social standards as the other characters in the novel. One could say that by having to pass through the Valley of Ashes in order to get to New York, the other characters would have to lower their status in order to pass. But above the great land and the spasm of bleak dust which drift endlessly over it, you perceive, after a moment, the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckert. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckert are blue and gigantic. Their retinas are 1 yard high. They look out of no face, but instead from a pair of enormous yellow spectacles which pass over a non-existing nose. But his eyes, dimmed a little by many paintless days under sun and rain, brood on over a solemn dumping ground. When you group these two passages together, it becomes clear that he is talking about the eyes of God looking over the world, or as the dumping ground as Nick describes it. Another thing to note is that not only can this passage be seen as symbolizing the eyes of God, but also as Nick's. Nick is the only one in the novel who really knows what is going on. All the other characters' actions are based upon everyday life and so are not able to judge situations from their own perspective. A good analogy is that they are all as blind as the eyes which are painted on the billboard. Because of Wilson's strong belief in God, this poster is not just an advertisement. It has a deep meaning to him. His view that God sees everything shows how strongly he believes in God watching over him through the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckerberg. Lastly, the eyes of T.J. Eckerberg shows the emptiness of the American dream. The American dream instills the idea that a person who comes from a good family can achieve the dream through hard work and taking advantage of opportunities that appear. This is clearly seen in the situation of Gatsby and Marlowe, where bootlegging and adultery occurs. However, the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckerberg looking down upon the Valley of Ashes can be interpreted as the American dream is one big lie. In the end, the American dreams made fortunes for some, but for the majority of people, it gave nothing. The idea that everyone can live this dream if they will try is yet just a dream. For the majority of people, life is the Valley of Ashes in which the eyes frown upon us as we try to obtain the American dream.